Don't you ever stop, I'm here with you. Now it's all or nothing, 'cause you said you follow through. You follow me, and I follow.
What you gonna do when things go wrong? What you gonna do when it all backs up? What you gonna do when the love burns down? What you gonna do when the flames go up? Who's gonna come and turn the tide? What's it gonna take
to make a dream survive?
Who's got the time
to calm a storm inside?
Who's gonna save you?
Alive and kicking, stay until your love is. Alive and kicking, stay until your love is. Until your love is alive. You lift me up to the crucial top so I can see. You lead me on till the feelings come and the lights that shine on. But if that don't mean nothing, like if someday it should fall through, you take me home where the magic's from, and I'll be with
What you
you.
gonna do when things go wrong? What you gonna do when it all cracks up? What you gonna do when your love burns down? What you gonna do when the flames go up? Who's gonna come and turn the tides? What's it gonna take
To make a dream survive,
Who's got the
to
touch?
calm the storm inside.
Don't say goodbye in the final seconds. Who's gonna say that?
Ooh, oh, alive and kicking. Oh, stay until your love is alive and kicking. Ooh, oh, alive and kicking. Oh, stay until your love is alive and kicking.
What a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love.
Hi, good morning. How the devil are you? I want to send my congratulations to Marion Calder, Trina Bridge, and Susan Smith. And I don't even know if I can say it without crying, to Magdalene Burns, who way back started for Women's Scot, these 4 wonderful women, started for Women's Scot with the purpose of protecting women in Scotland. And oh my God, what a job they have still. But what a job they have already managed to deal with. So I want to say to those women, they have won. And what have they won? I'm going to have to be very careful because I'm very, very excited, pleased, delighted for them. Delighted. Woman. We all know what woman is, right? That's why I started the whole thing back in 2018. That's why the billboard existed, because I knew the word woman was really instrumental in everything. And I just, so I'm going to say big fat congratulations. It kind of feels like I'm congratulating someone for not getting run over. You know, it feels really weird. And I know it's huge. It's a really great, wonderful win. But it's so massively tempered with, why the hell did we have to do it? I've got makeup all over my face, so I'm going to keep my glasses on. But it's really difficult to not be angry that anyone had to do it in the first place. So whilst it's a win, it's a really magnificent, significant win, because they basically took this insanity out of the minds. They took it out of the tightly held, clenched fists of the Scottish Parliament. That's what they did. That's why they had to do it. They had to do it about representation. Now, I want to tell you very soberly what the judgment means before we carry on. Okay. So, it's April the 16th, 2025. Not even April Fool's Day. And the court ruled that under the Equality Act 2010, the terms woman and sex refers specifically to biological sex. Genuinely, people. A court clarified what the word sex and woman means in an act where we all knew what sex and woman meant. Like, this is where we are in the culture war, that this had to be fought at great expense to everyone. This means that a man, even a man holding a gender recognition certificate, and let me just say, I heard what the judges said, and whilst they agreed with us, they did call men she. This means that men, even those holding a GRC, are not legally recognised as women for the purpose of this legislation. For the purpose of this legislation. Not other legislation, the Equality Act. Right? The Equality Act. That means that in the Equality Act, where they say sex and gender reassignment, that they aren't the same thing, and that when they say sex, they mean sex. And where we are is that we have to celebrate this as a win, which it is a win. It is a win. I just can't believe that we have to celebrate something as a win, even though it is clearly it's a win. Definition of woman. The court clarified that the definition of woman in the Equality Act is refers to women, biologically female, a woman. The impact on Scottish legislation is that no longer, when you have a board of men in dresses, that you can say you've got an all-female board. So they've got quotas and things in Scotland, and so they then can't include men in the quota of women. Mad, isn't it? Transgender protections. So whilst the ruling limits the definition to woman to biological females, the court emphasised that men who call themselves women are still protected under the Equality Act's provisions against discrimination on gender reassignment. Personally, I want that gone. I also want to know however, this protection does not equate to being legally recognised as women under the Act. Look, it's very clear it's under the Act. It's under the Act. Public boards and gender quotas. So there's some implications here. Men who call themselves women cannot be counted as representation on public boards in Scotland. Single-sex services. It may influence policies. So at the moment, you've always been able, since 2010, with proportionate and legitimate aims, to exclude men who call themselves women. Now, the Equality Act is still not saying that you have to, when you say it's a woman-only organisation, that you have to exclude men. It's saying maybe you can now use the Equality Act. Although 1 hour ago, you could use the Equality Act. 2 weeks ago, you could use the Equality Act. And let me just tell you, Rape Crisis Scotland and Rape Crisis and Women's Aid and all of these charities that welcome these perverts into their category of women and the people that they served, they never had to do it. They always had a choice. It was careerist and politically expedient for them to include these men. They never had to do it. There was always some payoff, this woman payoff of kindness, etc., being seen to be nice. They chose that social currency over protecting women. They never had to do it. And what this ruling does today doesn't change that at all. So there is no change at all. What this ruling hopes to do, or what For Women's Scot, I assume, hope it does, and what women's groups who fight hope it does, is it will now make it really clear that these people who've been frightened, which I don't believe, but people that have been too worried to exclude men now feel more resilient in excluding men. But I'm telling you, most of those people who've included men have done it with great pride and conviction. So it may influence policies, and the landmark decision is expected to prompt discussions about the coherence of the gender recognition laws and may lead to calls for legislative reform. So it may do that. My thing has always been we should repeal the GRA. So let me just bring this up that I so I just it's great, but it's ridiculous, right? It's quite ridiculous that anyone had to do this. Anyone had to spend their time and energy on this. And again, it's an incremental step, but I think the incoherence of the GRA has always been that a man is allowed to legally be recognized as a woman. And for what purpose? What is the point of the GRA? What was always the point of it? Well, the point of it probably was for those men to be considered as women in all cases. Now, that was the point of the people wanting the GRA. Might not have been the point of everybody who agreed to it. But if it wasn't to do that, what was it? What is it for? What is the GRA for? So I think this case might limit the impact of the gender recognition certificate. But the gender recognition certificate was always supposed to be sort of limited in some way, but it can't genuinely operate. Like we've said this for a really long time, the GRA creates a legal fiction and bonkers. So there is a legal contradiction. There was always this is what annoys me. There was always a legal contradiction between the sex of somebody as a woman and the legal recognition of somebody as a woman. Always. Let's hope it does something, but I genuinely feel that the Gender Recognition Act didn't need this. Didn't need the Gender Recognition Act. Didn't need the didn't need this ruling to be overturned. And this ruling, the reason For Women's Scot did it is to make a point with the Scottish government, and then it's just carried on for, I think they started this in 2018. So it's carried on for a number of years. And it's taken a lot of time and energy and money, I would imagine. And basically, I think we're exactly where we were 6 years ago. I don't think we're any further forward. But maybe this just gives more credibility to people arguing against it. Because this legislation has been used against women, which is why I think we should get rid of it all, to be honest. But this legislation has been used against women because apparently the terms were always ambiguous. And I suspect that is the entire point of the Gender Recognition Act. It was always to make the category of woman somewhat ambiguous. That's my view. Anyway, this day belongs to Susan Smith, Trina Bridge, and Marion Calder, and the late, great Magdalene Burns, who I'm sure will be looking down and going, oh my God, I can't believe we had to spend so much time on something that we all knew in the first place. And I just can't get my head around the fact that anybody thought sex didn't mean biological sex in the Equality Act, or the word woman didn't mean an actual woman in the Equality Act, when another category was gender reassignment. It's just so nuts that anyone had to fight a case like that. It's just so nuts. So just to clarify, you wonderful people, today, unanimously, today, April 16th, 2025, the UK Supreme Court delivered a unanimous judgment in the case of For Women Scotland Limited versus Scottish ministers. Those silly, silly, silly ministers. The court ruled under the Equality Act 2010, the terms woman and sex refer specifically to biological sex. And I know what you're saying, people. You're saying to yourselves, yes, of course, that's what we all thought it meant. And we are saying, yes, that's what we all thought it meant. And then we are saying, I wonder what the hell we are saying about the British judiciary, that this is an appeal, that this isn't the first case. Courts beforehand have ruled against For Women Scotland. Now, maybe an implication of this case should be that we really have a look at what the hell is going on in our court system and with our judges. Because how can you look at this legislation and not know that sex meant sex and woman meant woman? When, let's say you're an idiot, the bit gender reassignment in that act clearly says that there are two different things, which is people that are supposedly legal women under gender reassignment and the Equality Act. In my view, the foundation upon which all this shit is built is the Gender Recognition Act. And I think we repeal that. That's what we do. We just get rid of it. We find a way to get rid of it. We find a way to get these men out. I wonder what this case means for the Darlington nurses. I wonder what this case means for Sandy Peggy. If Sandy Peggy loses her case, then maybe she gets a second crack with this new ruling. I would imagine that there will be more of an impact for women to take their bosses to court if they so desire. But I just want to remind you all, those women in rape crisis centres, in the NHS, up and down the country, in foster care, in adoption, in elderly care, in the care for vulnerable people in homes, in the case of women, asylum seekers housed with men, in all of those cases, the reason there are men in those spaces, in those women-only spaces, is because women open the door. And they didn't just do it out of fear. They did it with glee. They did it because they felt good about themselves. They did it because they wanted everyone to know that they were great people. I don't know if those same women are now going to shut the door on those men. I don't think they will. The ECHR, 100% leave that. The Equality and Human Rights Commission in this country, what a load of shit they are. Amnesty, dreadful. NGOs, pointless. I think we need a massive overhaul of where each and every one of us has expected over the last few years. Sorry, I'm just revealing my woman. I think we need a massive overhaul of all the relationships with these with any authority whatsoever. Women's Aid, horrendous. The WI, awful. All of these places, they have not felt that there was a proportionate and legitimate aim to keep these perverts out. So that's all we're saying. Who's typing here? That's all I'm saying, that there has been a concerted effort. And it might be because if we got GRCs, it might not. It might just be because these women were just always ready to sell out everything that women had previously worked for. It might be that. So I hope for all of you, you now recognize that today is a day, whilst it is an extraordinary victory.
What a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love.
Whilst we should celebrate the work of Susan Smith, Trina Bridge, and Marion Calder, and the wonderful Magdalene Burns, who started for Women's Scot, like those 4 women started for Women's Scot. I want you all to recognize that in authority, in our courts, this was Supreme Court because they'd lost before. Our courts ruled against them. Ministers in Scotland ruled against them. The British government didn't step in, so Westminster didn't step in and overrule and get involved. The Conservatives, who were in power for all that time, saw what was happening, saw the decline in the decimation of women's rights, whilst we have the Gender Recognition Act, and did nothing. The Labour government have done nothing. So the NGOs have all sided with men. The women's charities, even domestic violence and rape crisis charities, have sided with men. And they've all done it willingly, happily, gleefully. And it took some women, some ordinary women who like have jobs and then do this in their spare time. It took those ordinary women all these years to get somebody to finally admit that a woman is a woman in the Equality Act, in the legislation, the only fucking legislation really that protects women. That legislation, they had to go to court and fight to say that you did mean women, didn't you? And that when they're talking about sex in an act which was taken before the act that precedes the Equality Act was the Sex Discrimination Act. The Sex Discrimination Act also allowed a man to use it to be recognized as a woman in his job. So sex discrimination cases were also brought against their employers on the basis that those men that called themselves women were discriminated for being women. So it's just taken all this time. It's so ridiculous. And why did it? Because nobody really cares about women. The only legislation we've ever had that's supposed to be ours, they tried to take away. And other legislation like maternity rights, or they tried to cancel the word mother. So it's a long way that we have to go. But just to I'm just going to say their names again because I just want you to know their names because they don't often have their names out. Often it's other names that you hear, but I want their names to be said a million times today. Susan Smith, Trina Bridge, Marion Calder, and the late great Magdalene Burns. And well done, everyone. It's a long fight, and there's so much more to do. But hopefully, what today represents is a really, really fantastic step in the right direction. I just hope it's quicker and quicker. If you can, like those women, stand by your principles, because you know that it's right, then I promise we will win. If you can raise a glass to those incredible Scottish women today, and take their fight and tenacity as inspiration and put a little bit more into your life, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Because I never lose.
You turned me on. You lit me up like the sweetest cup I share with you. You lift me up. Don't you ever stop. I'm here with you. Now it's all or nothing. 'Cause you said you follow through. You follow me, and I follow.
What you gonna do when you think it's going wrong? What you gonna do when it all cracks up? What you gonna do when the love runs down? What you gonna do when the flames go up? Who's gonna come and turn the tide? What's it gonna take
To make a dream survive,
Who's got the touch?
to calm a storm inside.
Who's gonna save you?